Hi everyone, welcome to Narain's Life with MS. I am Narain and it's time for Friday Findings. And this Friday Findings, there are two very um, differing news articles that I do have to share with you. And of course, I will have both the links down in the description section so that you can actually read it and understand a little bit more about what these two news articles are. Um, you know talking and of course mentioning. Now usually I do have some very upbeat stories, and for today I do want to say that one is definitely more of a more positive outlook on something that is MS related, while the other one uh, might be a certain cause for, I would say, just making sure what is generally happening with your treatment, right? So let's start off with something that is more on the upbeat side, which is that researchers have actually found that uh, there is a certain enzyme called CEMIP. I'll just call it CMIP, that might be one of the enzymes that is inhibiting myelin repair in MS patients. So what does that mean for us? I mean, first of all, if CMIP is actually the enzyme that is, uh, you know, reducing our chance for the myelin repair, finding ways to control it might actually give our own bodies a chance to repair itself. Now that is of course great news, but another part is that if it does end up being one of the reasons why myelin in MS patients does not repair as quickly or as efficiently, are there maybe other enzymes alongside CMIP that might actually have a similar reaction, or cause something similar in terms of myelin repair? So that is something to look out for. And of course, this is great news if this information does actually progress to turn out to be much bigger news in the future. And of course, if there is a way to repair our myelin faster, I would say that that is of course great news for us, considering that at least we our body does have a chance to fight against this disease. Of course, that is great. Now I will, of course, pivot over to the other news, and that is a little more concerning news, and that concerns one of the drugs that are the most effective against multiple sclerosis, and that is Ocrelizumab. And the one thing that has been discovered in one patient, or at least the article that I have shared talks about one patient that did experience this, was after their Ocrelizumab treatment, they developed what they developed neutropenia. And now, what is neutropenia? So neutropenia is a certain it's a certain it's a certain condition where the ratio of neutrophils in your body reduces dramatically. Now, why are neutrophils important? So neutrophils are actually, you can almost say, they're the first line of treatment in your white blood cells, right, in your immune system. And usually neutrophils reducing below a certain ratio does become a cause for concern, because neutrophils do end up being in your bloodstream, fighting against any very common bacteria, against very common viruses that do end up getting um, into certain cells, and do end up being pretty much the first line of defense against uh, you know any certain things. And so this one patient, and of course you can read a lot more about what ended up happening here, but this one patient did end up experiencing what is considered a late onset neutropenia as a result of getting their treatment of ocrelizumab, and as a result did experience certain symptoms as a result of the neutropenia, mostly being having feeling very tired afterwards, and being you know just not feeling overall as healthy as you should, or as normal as you should, after a dose of ocrelizumab. And thankfully, because the blood work was conducted and it did turn out that they were suffering from neutropenia, there were certain treatments that were being conducted. And the treatments, of course, involved uh, it did involve antibiotics and something else that I do not remember anymore. But I do want to say that I believe they are making recovery, or very decent recovery, as a result of early findings, and then of course early treatment. But of course, considering that this is happening from ocrelizumab, which is, of course, like I said, an MS drug with probably one of the highest efficacies, um, it does become a slight cause for concern, considering that what ocrelizumab does, which is target the CD20 enzymes in the immune system, um, and does reduce it to a very low figure, right? Pretty much zero. There are a lot of comparable treatments that do more or less the same thing, where they do target the CD19 or the CD20 enzymes. Now, when I say this, me being on rituximab, I also, do get tested for CD19 and CD20 enzymes, and usually mine are, especially after getting injected with rituximab, I do tend to see that the blood work shows that both CD19 and 20 are at zero. But it does become a slight cause for concern, because if it can happen with ocrelizumab, there are very small chances of it happening with other treatments that also target to do the exact same thing. So definitely do share with whomever your MS specialist is about what you experience, if you are on if you are having certain side effects of acrelizumab or any other treatment that you are using for your MS. So those were um, two news articles that I found today, and they were surprisingly some of the more recent articles about MS related things. I do hope that you found this enlightening. Do check out both of these news articles, because there is a lot of information that I did not cover, and that is mostly because I do want to read these articles, and I do want to relay at least the basic information about them, so that you can actually do your own research and find out more information, and see how that might actually help not only you, but someone who you might know that has maybe multiple sclerosis, or anything that does have very similar does have very similar you know impacts as MS does, right? I mean, one thing that I can definitely say is that with the first news article, when we were talking about CMEP being a certain enzyme that might actually inhibit the rebuilding of myelin after it gets damaged, might actually, if not help all the diseases that cause demyelination, might actually help might actually help another medical condition where demyelination also happens. So definitely I hope this does end up being a little useful, and you do find Friday findings um, you know somewhat helpful in understanding what's happening in the world um, with multiple sclerosis. And with that said, I hope you had a great week until now. I know that this is the start of the weekend, so I hope you do have a lot of things lined up for the weekend. And if so, I do hope that you have an enjoyable and a restful weekend. And now pretty much starts the last 2 weeks of the year. And so I do hope that you're all set to pretty much enjoy um, you know the holiday season, or at least enjoy the weather if the weather is agreeable in your area. So thanks so much, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. And of course, good night, sweet dreams, and I hope you're all ready for the weekend. Bye.